In 1996, chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov was defeated by IBM Deep Blue. And the writing on the wall was evident for most of us. AI will automate everything. The machines are taking over. AI will solve all my problems. But meanwhile, another story was unfolding. Garry Kasparov was relentlessly looking for a mechanism to defeat the machines. And after years of research and experimentation, he came up with an epiphany. The combination of weak people, average computers, and strong processes was demonstrated to defeat a strong computer. Furthermore, the same combination of weak people, average computer, and strong process was demonstrated to outmaneuver strong people with weak process. So in summary, it's not the people, nor the process, nor the technology which counts. It is the combination of all three elements. And this combination was demonstrated to defeat the strongest computers. In addition, it was also demonstrated to defeat the strongest adversaries. In 2016, there was a huge notion among cybersecurity experts that AI will automate everything. But the reality was otherwise. AI was automating simple static processes while the complex attacks required human intervention. Machine learning has been demonstrated to solve problems such as image recognition with pristine precision. However, these challenges are simple in nature, as the underlying statistical distribution of data remains static. However, cybersecurity is a different beast due to several reasons. We deal with dynamic environments where attack patterns keep on changing, as hackers are always looking for the path of least resistance. Furthermore, our network patterns keep on changing as we onboard new technologies. And finally, our user behavior changes as we grow our business. In addition, machine learning detection tools have been demonstrated to be spoofed quite easily by a group of researchers. And here's just one example. A group of researchers added a small amount of noise which is invisible to the naked eye. And then with that noise, they were able to spoof a machine learning detection model to believe a panda is in fact a gibbon. Furthermore, I strongly believe the following quote by Winston Churchill is very appropriate for cybersecurity managers who are conducting this modern warfare. And this quote is as follows: "Battles are won by slaughter and maneuver. The greater the general, the more he or she contributes in maneuver, and the less he or she demands in slaughter." Moving on, human-machine intelligence can help managers, but first we'll focus on the people. Today, SOC managers have poor visibility into skills. The existing KPIs revolving around time and frequency just doesn't work. And this is primarily because your diligent analysts are not being rewarded for doing quality work. And as we all know, when our best analysts leave, they take their tribal knowledge with them. In addition, today we've noticed the following trend in the industry. Most SOCs are using two primary mechanisms to distribute a complex task, one of which is grab bag, and another is random task assignment. And this has the following challenges. First would be slow incident resolution. So today it takes a long time to resolve incidents as the best analysts are not given the right tasks. Next would be poor accuracy. Many times analysts with inappropriate skill sets and contextual awareness are forced to take on tasks they're not ready to solve. And finally, unhappy workforce. So not all tasks are best utilized by an analyst's time, which leads to job dissatisfaction and eventually churn. In addition, we have also noticed the following trend. These poor task distribution strategies leads to imbalanced skill sets, which has been, one instance has been identified in the following diagram. So on the x-axis, we see analysts, and on the y-axis, we see a list of different kinds of attacks, which have been classified as follows: AWS, Active Directory, and more. What is evident from this diagram is as follows. So current task distribution strategies leads to knowledge silos, which means skill sets are not evenly distributed, we can notice the orange areas where you have stronger distribution of skills as opposed to the white areas where there's evident skill gaps. Next would be ineffective training. So the current strategy demonstrates that immediate focus has to be given to the blank areas where there are definitely skill gaps. And this has to be prioritized within the SOC. And finally, something which is quite scary would be how different scheduling mechanisms can lead to risk. As you can tell, pairing the wrong analysts within a shift might lead to a significant breach. Furthermore, what makes this process complicated is the follows. The efficacy at which an analyst resolves an incident can change in just 10 minutes. Here on the x-axis, we have time, and on the y-axis, we have time to resolve incidents in minutes. And we'll focus on the red box here, and then we'll focus on the blue box. On the red box, we notice that one analyst was given a specific task, and initially this analyst took 20 minutes to solve the problem. But as this analyst received a similar iteration of the same problem, this analyst within a few minutes was able to solve that problem at a fraction of the time. And these are trends we have been noticing in the industry, which also alludes to the fact that existing static Excel spreadsheets and rule-based task routing wouldn't work in this dynamic real-time environment. Which brings us to human-machine intelligence. So human-machine intelligence capabilities would integrate with existing tools used within our SOC, which includes our SIM tools, our SOAR tools, as well as our ticketing tools. And through integrations, these human-machine intelligence capabilities would take in data pertaining to incidents, as well as data pertaining to analyst interaction. And based on that, these tools will model the skill sets of analysts and the processes taken by analysts. And with this knowledge, a number of value adds can be derived, one of which would be skill-based task distribution. So by understanding at any given time who is the best analyst with the right skill sets and contextual awareness to solve problems, human-machine intelligence technologies will be able to distribute tasks in an efficient manner. And this leads to the following value propositions. First would be improved mean time to resolve incidents. Second would be improved accuracy. And finally would be better skill distribution across the board. Next, I would like to focus on the famous psychologist Mihai. And Mihai identified the following trend, which is as follows. So Mihai identified that greater job satisfaction is directly correlated with flow state, a so-called optimal peak experience. And this state can be derived through the following mechanisms. First, a skilled worker or analyst should be given realistic goals. Second, the analyst should be given tasks which are aligned with his or her skill sets. And finally, complete focus should be given towards one activity. And all these three criterions can be derived by human-machine intelligence in a real-life environment through the process of task distribution. Second, we'll focus on the process. So analysts are humans and make mistakes. And the following equation, error is equals to bias plus noise, was derived by the Nobel award-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman. And this was derived from his latest book called Noise. And on the right-hand side, we have a list of images which demonstrates how the difference between bias and noise. So on the top left corner, we notice an accurate depiction of what accuracy entails, which includes like a shooter hitting the bullseye. And on the south, we notice bias, where you have a similar pattern as opposed to accurate, but there's a phase shift. So, of course, there's a bias. And on the top right corner, we notice noise, where you have there's no apparent pattern. It's just a noisy distribution of shots. And the combination of bias and noise in the context of cybersecurity can be derived due to the following reasons. First would be skill gaps, next would be stress and fatigue, and third would be lack of context. Today, what we've noticed in the industry is as follows. Most cybersecurity operations centers are relying on random spot checks to identify mistakes. So many times mistakes are going unnoticed and slipping through the cracks. And this leads to a costly scenario when it comes to an external breach or an audit. So with automated quality assurance, this process can be completely automated. So first, we have incidents coming in, and these incidents are passed on to an analyst. With the power of human-machine intelligence, the actions taken by analysts are monitored, and as such, the processes taken by analysts are derived as well. Then, anomaly detection is performed on top of these processes to identify deviances from the norm or potential mistake, which is immediately flagged and passed on to a QA analyst or more experienced analyst for a review, thereby solving the mistake as soon as it happens. Next, I wanted to focus on another quote by Daniel Kahneman. And in this quote, Daniel Kahneman focuses on the importance of process and identifying deviances within process as a mechanism to identify potential mistakes. And we have noticed the exact same trend in the industry through our own research. Here we have taken 3 accounts of incident resolutions for one analyst across one customer in one server. And here we notice on the left, we notice a task gets created and the task gets assigned to a certain analyst at a given time, and the analyst will perform a series of actions across different tools to investigate and remediate the problem. And eventually the task is closed. As we club all these 3 processes taken by the same analyst, we were able to identify a potential mistake, in which case, for one case, this analyst escalated the scenario where it wasn't required to get escalated. And these are just some of the patterns we noticed just by analyzing a few weeks of data. Next would be the following. So SOAR tools are great at automating simple static processes, but the problem is not, with regards to automation, is not the low code, no code approach where analysts don't know how to code. The real problem from our understanding is the lack of understanding of processes which can be automated within an organization. And this is due to the following reason. So analysts primarily rely on intuition to solve problems. And here we have a series of quotes which perfectly depicts how an analyst would usually solve a problem. First, an analyst would see a large number of information across all the different tools they're using to solve the problem. Then the analyst, using their intuition, will focus on certain key elements within the data points or the UI, and as opposed to the others. And finally, when an analyst solves a problem, it's very hard for them to explain the exact series of actions taken by the analyst to solve problems and decisions they have made, as intuition is normally used. And this is why these processes are not existent primarily in the industry for complex processes. In addition, another complexity is as follows. The processes used within an organization is dependent on the context of the on various factors. So for instance, within a bank, the same attack on your online banking server can be dealt with completely differently than that on your reward server. This is due to a number of reasons, which include different IT technologies, different business criticalities, different policies, and more. In addition, what's usually not highlighted in the industry is as follows. So analysts take a series of iterative steps in order to solve problems. So normally an analyst would consider a series of questions and answers, and the processes they use would be dependent on the answers of these questions. So these processes would be evolving and would be dependent on the context of the infrastructure. I'm happy to share that through our experiment, we have also noticed the same trends as well. Just by observing the processes and the actions taken by analysts, human-machine intelligence is able to identify the series of decisions which an analyst would intuitively make just by observing the data. Here we have one example where an analyst opens a ticket, and then an analyst would perform a series of actions to solve the problem, and then an analyst would close the ticket. I just wanted to highlight one segment here with this, where a specific analyst uses a specific tool to put in an IP address to see if it's related to a malicious hacker. However, what would happen is the following. By using a technique called process mining, the algorithm would be able to identify what the response would be should the IP address be malicious or should the IP address not be malicious. And these are decision boundaries which the algorithms would be able to derive by themselves. And finally, let's focus on technology and a specific trend in the industry, which is repackaging existing tools. So here we have highlighted Gartner's cybersecurity hype cycle, where you have XDRs, which is an evolving trend. And of course, you have the SOAR tools, the SIM tools, and other tools further down the chain. Let's dive deeper into XDR. So on the left-hand side, we have data coming in from endpoints, and then of course this data gets correlated, course, there could be some rules in place which would flag alerts. And then there's an enrichment cycle where you have data coming from different sources to further enrich the alert and the context. And then we have some playbooks in place which can automate static processes, and then you'll likely have analysts at the end to solve the problems. So this is your XDR in a nutshell. But when we dive deeper, we also notice that XDRs and our newer tools actually corresponds to technologies which have existed in the past, including your EDRs, your SIM tools, and your SOAR platforms. So again, simply repackaging existing technologies will not solve the problem which have existed over the same period of time. And this is where the power of human-machine intelligence can come into play to solve the problem of cybersecurity. Thank you.